You have to understand this. Boxing's like this game of life. I got beaten by Buster, right?
Of influencer boxing, does Jake continue? You know, he's got I guess, looks like a particularly bad injury. Both sides of his jaw broken.
When he fought Anthony Joshua, I scoffed at it. I talked a little bit of because of the lunacy. And I said, someone's got to end up dead. Someone can die. 10 to 13 boxers die per year.
Mike Tyson reacted strongly after Jake Paul was knocked out by Anthony Joshua, warning him to step away from boxing. Tyson said Jake is putting his life at risk by fighting elite heavyweights, and that boxing is a brutal sport where serious injuries can happen fast. After the fight, reports showed Jake suffered a serious jaw injury, and videos online showed him struggling to open his mouth and speak due to pain. Many fans and analysts say this injury proves how dangerous the fight was and supports Tyson's warning that continuing to chase these high-risk matchups could lead to even worse damage.
I'm not good.
Paulie Malignaggi explained that Jake Paul's jaw injury is very serious and will take a long time to heal. He said a broken jaw on both sides isn't like a normal injury because it has to fully recover before Jake can take punches, spar, or fight again. Paulie believes this could keep Jake out of boxing for up to a year, which raises questions about whether he will return to the ring or shift his focus elsewhere. He praised Jake's MVP promotion, saying it treats fighters well and pays them fairly, unlike many boxing promoters. According to Paulie, Jake has done a strong job building the company, and it could become his main priority while he recovers.
But when you take care
Michael Bisping warns that combat sports are extremely dangerous and should never be treated like a game. He points out that every year, around 10 to 13 professional boxers lose their lives due to injuries suffered in the ring, showing how real the risks are. Bisping criticizes Jake Paul for moving far beyond his natural weight class, mainly for money, saying these mismatches may attract attention, but also put him in serious danger. He emphasizes that boxing demands professionalism, proper training, and respect, and ignoring these basics can lead to severe and life-changing consequences.
You have this issue now where he's got to recover, and honestly, coming from broken two sides of broken jaw is even worse because to test it out, you're not just chewing food or talking. Your jaw has to heal enough to take impact, to spar, to be able to actually box and not just everyday life's usage of your jaw. Like I said, to just chew and talk. So I don't know. That's why I was thinking, like, is this going to be the end of Jake, or because even if he comes back as a boxer, it'll probably could take a year, to be honest. Does he focus on his promotional company? I was thinking, the promotional company is probably one thing that I could always ride with. I never had criticism for it. Jake's promotional company, MVP. I think he's doing a lot of good things with his fighters, taking care of them, which is personally what I like. If fighters earn their money, and they should be compensated for it the right way, and a lot of promoters don't do that. But Jake has signed a lot of good fighters and compensates them very well, giving them opportunities and so on. So especially the women, but not just the women. Buddy of mine, Lucas Body's also signed with MVP. He's done well over there. So he's. I do like the promotional company. Will this maybe give Jake a chance to sort of double down on the promotional company, being that he's not going to be fighting and put even more effort into the promotional company, and I don't know, just make this MVP platform an even bigger deal. I don't know.
Johnny Nelson says that Jake Paul is very good at promoting fights and creating huge attention around himself. He gives Jake credit for knowing how to sell an event and attract fans. However, Nelson also warns that risking your life just for entertainment is not something to praise. He sees Jake's loss to Anthony Joshua as a clear reality check, showing that hype and promotion cannot protect someone in the ring. Nelson reminds young fighters and influencers that facing elite professionals without enough experience is extremely dangerous. In the end, both analysts agree that while Jake is a strong marketer, the physical risks he took were real and should not be ignored.
It's not a game. Fighting is not something you pick up and mess around with, right? If you're a fighter, if you're a boxer, if you're a mixed martial artist, right, you have to take this seriously and you have to respect the game. That's why when he fought Anthony Joshua, I scoffed at it. I talked a little bit of because of the lunacy. And I said, someone's going to end up dead. Someone can die. 10 to 13 boxers die per year. It is not a game. Now, of course, the man wants to make money and he wants to box people and he wants to entertain his fans and thrill audiences. And that's great. And God bless him. Fair play to him. The man is very, very successful. I've never talked about that. I've only talked about a 58-year-old Mike Tyson or fighting retired, semi-retired UFC legends and then talking about them, right? All I've ever said is box someone your own age and size. And then this thing with Anthony Joshua, I was like, this is crazy. Now let's talk about the actual fight for a second. It happened in the 6th round and it happened in a 22-foot ring. A typical ring is 20 foot. This one was 22 foot because he wanted a bigger room to operate, a bigger space, a bigger ring, somewhere to run away and be on his bike and stay away from Anthony Joshua. Now, I don't blame the guy. I'd have done the same thing, right? Because Anthony Joshua is gigantic and has the kind of power that could potentially do that to you, right? Maybe it's real, maybe it's AI, right? Either way, his face is going to be swollen today. That's a fact, right? The bigger ring gives you more space. Jake Paul did about 5 miles of road work, shot about 25 double leg takedowns because he didn't want to stand there and go toe to toe with him like Francis Ngannou did because he knows what would have happened, okay? And ultimately, it ended up happening anyway in the 6th round. And yeah, okay, he's going to have the street cred of standing there and say, I went 6 rounds with...
Say Jake Paul's broken jaw is a very serious injury that could affect his career. Reports suggest both sides of his jaw were damaged, meaning it will take a long time to heal before he can safely spar, take punches, or fight again. Experts explain that this kind of injury is not just about eating or talking, but about whether the jaw can handle impact in the ring. Recovery may take many months, and returning too soon could cause permanent damage. They also warn that continuing to take high-risk fights against elite opponents could seriously harm Jake's long-term health and future in boxing.
Anthony Joshua couldn't have done any more. When you get in the ring with somebody that is constantly trying to just survive and run, you can't do anything about it. Our sport is built up of journeymen, like what Jake Paul did. He's trying to survive, he's not trying to engage. And so therefore, it's your job to cut him down and catch up to him. I think Anthony Joshua, it was basically open to a lot of criticism because this guy didn't come to engage. If he came to engage, then it would have been a completely different story. And I understand the frustration of the general public when they're saying he should knock him out in 1 to 2 rounds. I get that because Jake Paul has been brilliant at annoying and getting under the skin of everybody, which you really in our sport, if you can evoke emotion from the fans, you're doing a great job. So what Jake Paul did was got in the ring. I think he realised the task in hand when he stood there in that 22-foot ring. He sees an Adonis of a fighter, former world champion, Anthony Joshua in another corner, and that's when reality hit fiction. Everything he had in his head, everything he thought that he could possibly do, had disappeared, slipped out the ring with the cornermen, slipped out the ring, and he thought, wow, this is for real. And even a little jab that just gently missed him, you could see him thinking, what is this about? So it was a case of survival. And to me, I didn't want Anthony Joshua to knock him out, if I'm honest with you. I thought, you've got to make this kid have a reality check. And that's what he actually did, because Jake Paul himself said, I was shattered. You know, this guy, everything I thought I could do, I couldn't do. Boxing looks so easy on the TV. Boxing looks so, matter of fact, no big deal, until you get punched and then reality kicks in. And Jake Paul, he has done a brilliant job of promoting himself, promoting this fight, promoting the evoking human emotion. And I think he'll be a great promoter down the line because, on the undercard, you had Caroline DeBar boxing on the undercard. You had all these amazing fighters on the undercard.
Dan Raphael criticizes Jake Paul's early game plan, calling it recklessly excessive and comparing it to running into a jet plane's propeller. He explains that there's a clear difference between smart defensive movement and outright fleeing the ring, which he says Jake essentially did for the first 4 rounds. While this approach helped Jake stay on his feet temporarily, Raphael describes it as almost cartoonish survival rather than real boxing. He adds that the knockout was both expected and impressive, but believes it took longer than it realistically should have given the mismatch in level.
Most people can tell me is, oh, but Jake Paul made a lot of money. Who cares? Money is a tool. Money is good. If you can get it, get it. Hustle. But here's the thing. If someone offered you $100 million, but then if you took the $100 million, you have to pass away, they're going to take your life in 2 weeks. I mean, would you take that? So you get a lot of money and then you only have 2 weeks with the money. Like that, to me, that's stupid. So money is cool, but there's billionaires and millionaires that have lost their life. I'm sure they had terminal illnesses or whatnot. I'm sure they would give up a lot of their wealth or large portions of their wealth for their health. That's why people say health is wealth. So I'm not impressed by money. And it's so funny that you have these MAGA influencers that just lost back-to-back, Jake Paul and Andrew Tate, and their fan bases who pitch this far right and pitch this like red pill philosophies, alpha male philosophies, and like having affirmations and daily tenets and goal setting and being a real man and the difference between man and woman, all these things that these bases have been
Liam Smith gives a blunt assessment of Jake Paul's knockout loss to Anthony Joshua, calling the fight disappointing from a pure boxing perspective. He says Jake's performance was far from professional, as he appeared focused more on surviving than actually engaging, showing a lack of proper technique and ring strategy. Smith contrasts this with Jake's undeniable business brilliance, praising his ability to attract massive names like Mike Tyson and Anthony Joshua, secure major Netflix deals, and generate significant attention for women's boxing. From a promotional standpoint, Smith believes Jake is unmatched, turning what could have been a simple spectacle into a multi-million-dollar event. However, he stresses that despite the financial success, the fight failed to deliver excitement or credibility for serious boxing fans. In Smith's view, Jake Paul excels as an influencer and promoter, but his limitations as a professional boxer were clear, relying on survival rather than true competitive performance in the ring.
Shocked me, but it kind of disappointed me. Whereas I didn't expect Jake Paul to go in there and just recklessly go forward and try to mix it up with Anthony Joshua. That would be like immediate suicide. That would be like running into a jet plane propeller on purpose. But there's a fine line between being defensive minded and using your ability to move and your speed and things like that, than like literally fleeing and just running around the ring like you're in a cartoon. And that's what he basically resorted to for the first 4 rounds. I mean, I guess it was effective because he stayed upright, other than when he was flopping down on the canvas. But no, nothing really surprised me. Jake got the knockout that everybody expected, and it was a pretty impressive knockout when he finally got it. It just took him longer than it probably should have to get there.
Why do you think it took him so long? It seemed at times that he wasn't throwing his right hand as much. Was it just the fact, like you said, Jake was on the back foot, it was difficult to pin him down, or do you think Joshua should have and could have finished this way earlier?
I mean, he probably could have finished it a little bit earlier. I mean, I'm willing to cut him a little bit of slack because we look at it from the standpoint of, okay, he's a physically much more imposing figure, a much better fighter, a much heavier puncher, a much more experienced fighter. This is an Olympic gold medal winner, this is a 2-time unified heavyweight champion going up against what is basically still a novice professional in Jake Paul, who, by the way, is fighting generally in the 200-pound weight class, and Anthony Joshua was a chiseled 250 in most of his fights or thereabouts. So from that standpoint, he had all the physical advantages as well as all the experience and skills advantages. So Why couldn't he do it earlier? Because it's hard to catch up with a guy when he's just going to run around and never try to even take a...
Jake Paul is reported to have suffered what some analysts are calling a potentially career-ending injury after his fight with Anthony Joshua. Critics argue that his performance looked more like a stunt than a serious boxing contest. They claim Jake entered the ring not as a fully prepared professional boxer, but as someone imitating the sport without committing to real engagement. In the early rounds, he was seen repeatedly running, dropping to his knees, and clinching Joshua just to survive, reportedly doing this 10 or 11 times across 6 rounds. Although he managed to last the full 6 rounds, analysts say these tactics were unsafe and unprofessional, placing his health at extreme risk. Observers point out that the constant holding and avoidance exposed a lack of basic boxing fundamentals and strategy. Experts warn that continuing to face elite fighters with this approach could result in catastrophic injuries, stressing that blending entertainment with professional-level combat demands far greater respect, discipline, and caution.
No more than I would have given him respect before for the other things that he's done, for the just that he would have from me for being just a normal human being. Because as I said in other videos about the fight between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua, I don't think that Jake Paul came in there as a boxer. I think Jake Paul came in there as a stunt man, and he was impersonating a boxer. He ran around the ring away from Anthony Joshua. Anytime Anthony Joshua tried in the beginning rounds, started engaging a little bit, Jake Paul ran up to him, jumped down on his knees, grabbed down on his leg. Might have been, I don't know, 10, 11 times in the course of the 6 rounds that he...
Angelo and Josh analyze the Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua fight and question whether this could be the end of Jake Paul's boxing journey. They note that while Jake fought Mike Tyson last year, this matchup was very different. This time, Jake suffered a broken jaw in 2 places and is now on a liquid diet, even though he reportedly earned $92 million. They debate whether such a one-sided loss hurts his future in boxing or if fans will still stay interested, even if he fights less experienced opponents. They also praise Joshua's near-perfect performance, highlighting how he stayed disciplined, avoided risks, and never left himself open. Ultimately, the discussion moves away from spectacle and focuses on consequences. The broken jaw, the warnings from boxing legends, and the shared concern from analysts all point to the same truth. Boxing is not a game, and mismatches at the elite level carry serious, lasting risks. While Jake Paul has proven himself to be a brilliant promoter and a major force in modern fight marketing, this loss to Anthony Joshua was a harsh reminder that success outside the ring offers no protection inside it. Whether this moment ends Jake's boxing ambitions or simply forces a pause due to injury, the message from the boxing world is clear. Continuing on this path comes with dangers that money, fame, and confidence cannot cancel out.
On the flip side to it, everyone's laughing at Jake Paul when Jake Paul's laughing at everybody else. Everyone's making fun of him. He's laughing at us, not we're laughing at him. He's just laughed himself to the bank. Even before that fight, he's an unbelievable businessman, which is exactly what he is. To do what he's done, to drag Mike Tyson into the ring, to drag Anthony Joshua into the ring, get Netflix to do what he's done with women's boxing. Laugh at him all you want, mate. He's absolutely... I'm going to use the word the businessman. He's unbelievable at what he's doing. As a fighter, as a boxer, as a professional boxer, he's poor. And I mean this with the greatest respect. He's come off the couch watching YouTube, doing YouTube and influencing people to get Anthony Joshua in the ring. Should Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua ever be in the ring together? No, should they fuck? But the business side to it, they fucking walked away with millions. The fight was poor. Jake was just in there to survive. There's loads. We can keep going on and on about it. Was it a success? Probably. The boat walked away with millions. But for Jake to get Joshua in the ring there, you can say all you want, but I think personally, if that fight fell on Tyson Fury's lap first, he would have took it.
You know, which heavyweight's going to say, yeah, it is. Just let's say, example, 50 million to fight Jake Paul. You know, they're going to say no. I don't think one heavyweight in world boxing would have said no, barring Alexander Usyk.
No, definitely as well. Final one on this as well. Do you side with the fact that kind of the first meaningful shot that Joshua threw, the fight was over?
Yeah,
definitely.
That's it for today's video. Stay tuned, and we'll see you.